World War II was the deadliest conflict in human history, reshaping the political, social and economic landscape of the 20th century. At its center stood Nazi Germany, led by Adolf Hitler, a regime that would wreak havoc across Europe and beyond. From its rise in the 1930s to its eventual destruction in 1945, Nazi Germany's story is a cautionary tale of how nationalism, dictatorship and hatred can escalate into global conflict. In this video, we will break down the key events that led to the rise of the Nazi regime and how it ultimately met its defeat. The rise of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party. The seeds of Nazi Germany's rise were planted in the wake of World War I. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, placed the full blame for the war on Germany, forcing it to pay enormous reparations and cede valuable territories like the Rhineland. The treaty was viewed by many Germans as a national humiliation, creating widespread resentment. In the 1920s, the German economy was in freefall. Hyperinflation rendered the German mark almost worthless, causing prices to spiral out of control. People's savings vanished overnight and unemployment soared. This chaos created fertile ground for extremist political movements. Enter Adolf Hitler, a former soldier in World War I, who had joined the small German Workers' Party in 1919. Hitler quickly rose to prominence within the party due to his powerful oratory skills and strong nationalist message. By 1921, he had become the leader of the party, which he renamed the National Socialist German Workers' Party, or Nazi Party. In 1923, Hitler attempted to overthrow the Weimar Republic in a failed coup known as the Beer Hall Putsch. He was imprisoned for his role in the putsch, but used the time to write Mein Kampf, a manifesto outlining his vision for Germany. Upon his release, Hitler shifted tactics, focusing on gaining power through democratic means. The Great Depression of 1929 was a turning point. As unemployment reached staggering levels, more and more Germans turned to the Nazi Party, which promised a return to national greatness, the rejection of the Treaty of Versailles, and the creation of a racially pure Aryan state. Hitler's path to power, becoming Chancellor and dictator. By 1932, the Nazi Party had become the largest party in the Reichstag. However, Hitler's ambitions were far from complete. In January 1933, after backroom deals and pressure from conservative elites, Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany. This seemingly minor political maneuver would have far-reaching consequences. Just weeks after taking office, a mysterious fire engulfed the Reichstag, the German parliament building. The Nazis blamed the fire on the communists, exploiting the incident to push through the Reichstag fire decree, which suspended civil liberties and allowed for the mass arrest of political opponents. Shortly thereafter, in March 1933, the Nazi-controlled Reichstag passed the Enabling Act, effectively giving Hitler dictatorial powers by allowing him to pass laws without parliamentary consent. This marked the beginning of Gleichschaltung, the process of consolidating Nazi control over all aspects of German society. Within months, all opposition parties were banned and Hitler became Führer, the supreme leader. The Nazi regime quickly established a police state, led by Heinrich Himmler's SS and the Gestapo, which terrorized anyone deemed a threat to Nazi ideology. Hitler now had absolute power, transforming Germany into a one-party dictatorship. The Nazi ideology and the road to war. At the core of Nazi Germany was a toxic ideology rooted in ultranationalism, racism, and militarism. Hitler envisioned a future in which Germany would dominate Europe and establish a new order based on the superiority of the Aryan race. Central to this vision was the idea of Lebensraum, or living space, which involved the expansion of German territory into Eastern Europe, particularly at the expense of the Slavic peoples, whom the Nazis regarded as racially inferior. This expansionist drive was also fueled by a desire to secure resources and land for a growing German population. Domestically, the Nazis implemented policies that targeted Jews, Romani people, homosexuals, and others they deemed undesirable. The Nuremberg Laws of 1935 stripped German Jews of their citizenship and laid the foundation for their persecution, which would culminate in the Holocaust during the war. Militarization was another key aspect of Nazi ideology. In violation of the Treaty of Versailles, Hitler began rearming Germany, rebuilding the military in preparation for his expansionist plans. In 1936, Germany reoccupied the Rhineland, a region demilitarized by the Treaty of Versailles. This bold move went unchallenged by Britain and France, emboldening Hitler further. Over the next few years, Nazi Germany would annex Austria in 1938 and pressure Czechoslovakia into surrendering the Sudetenland through the Munich Agreement. Hitler promised that this would be his last territorial demand, but in reality, he was just getting started. World War II begins. Blitzkrieg and early German victories. On September 1st, 1939, Nazi Germany invaded Poland, using a new and highly effective military tactic known as Blitzkrieg, or lightning war. This method of warfare relied on fast, coordinated strikes by tanks, aircraft, and infantry to overwhelm and quickly defeat enemy forces. Within weeks, Poland was defeated, and World War II had begun. Britain and France declared war on Germany, but little could be done to save Poland. The following year, in 1940, Hitler's forces turned west, launching invasions of Denmark, Norway, Belgium, and France. Despite the famed Maginot Line, a series of fortifications along France's border, the German army bypassed it, leading to the rapid collapse of French defenses. In June 1940, France fell to Nazi forces, and Hitler celebrated his greatest victory yet. However, the war was far from over. The next target was Britain, but the island nation held firm. The Battle of Britain, fought in the skies above England, was the first major defeat for the Nazis. British fighter pilots, supported by radar technology, successfully repelled the German Luftwaffe, preventing a German invasion. Turning points: Stalingrad, D-Day, and the fall of Berlin. While Nazi Germany achieved stunning victories in the early years of the war, the tide began to turn by 1942. The most significant turning point occurred on the Eastern Front at the Battle of Stalingrad. Hitler's decision to invade the Soviet Union in 1941 had seemed like another bold move, but it quickly turned into a disaster. Stalingrad became a brutal war of attrition, and by February 1943, the encircled German Sixth Army surrendered. This marked the beginning of the end for Nazi Germany on the Eastern Front. Meanwhile, on the Western Front, the Allied invasion of Normandy, known as D-Day, took place on June 6, 1944. This massive operation saw over 156,000 Allied troops land on the beaches of Normandy, France. Despite heavy resistance, the Allies successfully established a foothold, marking the start of the liberation of Western Europe from Nazi occupation. As Allied forces pushed closer to Berlin from both the east and the west, Hitler's dream of a 1,000-year Reich began to crumble. In April 1945, as Soviet troops entered Berlin, Hitler committed suicide in his bunker. On May 7, 1945, Nazi Germany officially surrendered, ending the war in Europe. The legacy of Nazi Germany's defeat. The defeat of Nazi Germany came at a staggering human cost. Over 60 million people perished during the conflict, including 6 million Jews in the Holocaust. The world was left to grapple with the horrors of Nazi atrocities, and the leaders of the regime were brought to justice during the Nuremberg trials. In the aftermath of the war, Europe was divided into spheres of influence, setting the stage for the Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union. Germany itself was split into East and West, symbolizing the broader ideological divide that would dominate global politics for decades to come. Nazi Germany's rise and fall serve as a stark reminder of the dangers of totalitarianism, militarism, and hatred. It is a story that we must continue to study and remember, so that the world may never again fall prey to such destructive forces. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into world history.